You're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. This bite of knowledge is a long time coming because I'm talking about anti-nutrients and ways to reduce them in foods. And if you are an IBS sufferer or have digestive issues, you probably are aware or at least have heard of anti-nutrients or phytic acid or oxalates. And you're like, what are those? What foods are they in? And is there a workaround? Is there a way to diminish this while I can still enjoy these foods? So nutrients in plants are not always easily digested, and many believe this is because plants may contain anti-nutrients, which are plant compounds that reduce the absorption of nutrients from the digestive system. So obviously, this is a concern with those with IBS and digestive issues. Heck, those with a, quote, healthy gut have issues with this as well. That's my whole belief, is they just probably don't even know it and they're just having these issues. So I also think that's why the carnivore diet has become so popular, because you are essentially eliminating all vegetables in the carnivore diet. But what if I told you there was a workaround and a way to reduce these anti-nutrients and ultimately digest veggies a lot easier? That's what today's bite of knowledge is all about. So today I'm sharing several simple ways to reduce the amount of anti-nutrients in food, and in some cases, eliminate them almost entirely so you can enjoy them once again without the bloat, gas, pain, and discomfort many experience when eating veggies, grains, and legumes. Equip Foods just launched a protein bar in 2 flavors, chocolate and mixed berry. And believe it or not, they sold out the first week of launching, but they sent me some to try even before they announced it. And let me tell you, these bars are legit, packed with 20 grams of pure, complete protein. Forget the syrups, lecithins, and mystery binders. Equip Foods' new Prime protein bars are made with whole food ingredients you can recognize and trust, like dates, honey, cacao powder, and grass-fed beef tallow. No refined sugar, no seed oils, no stevia or monk fruit, just real food. This is the first protein bar with colostrum, nature's most complete superfood. It supports gut health, immunity, and recovery, especially beneficial for those with sensitive digestion or demanding lifestyles. These are gut-friendly, bloat-free, and contain no whey, no milk solids, no seed oils, and of course, are just pure, real food packed in a bar. They are third-party tested for heavy metals, microplastics, glyphosate, and other contaminants. Needless to say, you need to get your hands on them because they are selling out left and right. Secure yours by going to equipfoods.com/digest and use code DIGEST to get 20% off your entire order. This code is good on anything from Equip Foods, like their grass-fed collagen, Prime beef protein, and of course, their new protein bars. Again, go to equipfoods.com/digest and use code DIGEST for 20% off. You guys always see me raving about Fatty 15 on my Instagram, and I've been taking it for about a year now and have even gotten my husband on board. Well, why? Because Fatty 15 is the first supplement ever to help cellular fragility syndrome, which is due to low levels of the essential fatty acid C15. The pure C15 ingredient in Fatty 15 has 26 more cellular benefits than omega-3 and repairs 83% of cell types. As many as 1 in 3 people worldwide may have low C15 levels and cellular fragility syndrome. So if you think your omega fish oil is doing you good, think again and try Fatty 15 for a change. And the icing on the cake is that Fatty 15 is 100% vegan with no burpy fish smell. If you are wanting to stop oxidation in the body and slow down aging, or just looking for a safer alternative to omega fish oil, give Fatty 15 a try just like I did. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15/digest and use code DIGEST at checkout. All right, back to basics here. Quick overview here. what are anti-nutrients? Okay, so let's just break it down. So anti-nutrients, as I previously mentioned, they are plant compounds that reduce the body's ability to absorb essential nutrients. So they may not be a concern for some people, but for many, they are a huge issue. And honestly, a large population may not even realize they have an issue with anti-nutrients in food and just think feeling horrible after eating produce and grains is normal, but it's not normal, you guys. So I want to be clear that anti-nutrients aren't always, quote, bad. Under certain circumstances, anti-nutrients like phytate and tannins may have some beneficial health effects as well. So it's not always a bad thing, but the most widely studied anti-nutrients are phytate, which is phytic acid. This is mainly found in seeds, grains, and legumes. So the phytate reduces the absorption of minerals such as iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium. Tannins are a class of antioxidant polyphenols that may impair the digestion of various nutrients. Lectins are found in all plants, but are higher in seeds, legumes, and grains. Some lectins may be harmful in high amounts and can interfere with the absorption of nutrients. Protease inhibitors, not protease, but protease inhibitors are very common among plants, especially in seeds, grains, and legumes as well. They interfere with protein digestion by inhibiting digestive enzymes, hence protease inhibitors, because protease is actually a digestive enzyme. And so protease inhibitors are a huge factor with people struggling with digestive issues. They think that they are eating something good for them, right? But they're actually inhibiting the digestive enzymes needed to break down the food. Then they go into a downward spiral. It's kind of like a catch-22. Now, calcium oxalate, or some just refer to it as oxalates. Now, this is the primary form of calcium in many vegetables, such as spinach, which are one of the number one foods containing high amounts of oxalates. Now, all that to say, I don't want to say that spinach is really, really bad for you, because there are a lot of benefits from spinach and grains and legumes and things like that. But I think there is a certain way that you can not only digest them better, but actually get the most out of these foods and better absorption from them. Because if you're not preparing them in the right way, then they could actually be doing more harm than good. So first way to reduce the anti-nutrients is soaking. So beans and other legumes are often soaked in water overnight to improve their nutritional value. Just be sure to soak them in purified water, because they will absorb the water you soak them in. Now, why this method helps is because most of the anti-nutrients are found in the skin. And since many anti-nutrients are water soluble, they simply dissolve when foods are soaked. In legumes specifically, soaking has been found to decrease phytate, protease inhibitors, lectins, tannins, and oxalates. So you want to soak them for a minimum of 12 hours, ideally 24 hours overnight, then throughout the day, the next day, or you can do it all day long and then also that night to complete the 24 hours. You then want to drain the water it's been soaked in, rinse the legumes, then fill the pot that you're going to cook them in with fresh water, and then you're going to cook them as you would, and then until they're ready. Okay, so it is important to note, though, that the reduction of anti-nutrients may depend on the type of legume. So in kidney beans, soybeans, and fava beans, soaking reduces protease inhibitors only very slightly, whereas for peas, garbanzo beans, aka chickpeas, soaking has a much greater positive effect. So not only is soaking useful for legumes, but leafy vegetables can also be soaked to reduce some of their calcium oxalates, which I think is really cool. Sprouting is a period in the life cycle of plants when they start emerging from the seed. This natural process is also known as germination. So this process increases the availability of nutrients in seeds, grains, and legumes. Sprouting typically takes a few days, and this is how you would want to go about it if you wanted to try it. So first, begin by rinsing the seeds to remove all debris, dirt, and soil, obviously. Then soak the seeds for 2 to 12 hours in cool water. The soaking time does depend on the type of seed, okay? So then you're gonna rinse them thoroughly in water, Drain as much water as possible and place the seeds in a sprouting vessel, which you can find online, such as Amazon, etc. You can also just use a mason jar with holes poked through the top of the lid, or use a cheesecloth and rubber band. You want to make sure to place it out of direct sunlight. So that's very important. You want to repeat rinsing and draining 2 to 4 times. This should be done regularly, about every 8 to 12 hours, okay? And then during the sprouting, changes do take place within the seed that leads to the degradation of anti-nutrients such as phytate and protease inhibitors. It's also been shown to reduce phytate by 37 to 81% in various types of grains and legumes. That's pretty big, you guys. There's also evidence that the decrease in lectins and protease inhibitors during the sprouting process also just declines. So there's tons of benefits with the sprouting. I've personally done this myself many times with chickpeas, almonds, and broccoli seeds particularly, and it's really fun, though I do have to tell you, the broccoli seeds do start to smell kind of funky, so just be aware of that. If you do want more detailed instructions on how to sprout, sproutpeople.org has an excellent page and information about how to sprout various types of beans, grains, and other plant foods. And I'm sure you can find other videos online, such as YouTube, etc. I started sprouting my almonds back in 2017, and it's just been a game changer to my overall gut healing. Now let's talk about fermentation. So fermentation, I'm sure you guys know, it's an ancient method originally used to preserve food. Most of us, though, we think of yogurt, kefir, or kimchi when we hear the word fermentation, but it goes far beyond dairy and cabbage. Other food products that are processed by fermentation, aside from yogurt, cheese, and kimchi, are wine, beer, coffee, cacao, and soy products such as tofu. Another good example of fermented food is sourdough bread. The making of sourdough effectively degrades anti-nutrients in the grains, leading to increased availability of nutrients. In fact, sourdough fermentation is more effective at reducing anti-nutrients in grains than yeast fermentation in typical breads. And in various grains and legumes, fermentation effectively degrades phytate and lectins. And for example, I just want to share this. This is really cool. There was a study that showed fermenting pre-soaked beans for 48 hours caused an 88% reduction in phytates. That's major, you guys. It's a major decrease in anti-nutrients. Now, again, I want to clarify. They fermented pre-soaked beans. So they did a 2-step process here that I previously mentioned. They soaked the beans and then they fermented them for 48 hours. And that was an 88% reduction in phytates. So you may want to explore that option. Now, I do want to touch on boiling. I know that may seem a little contradictory, but high heat, especially when boiling, can degrade anti-nutrients like lectins, tannins, and protease inhibitors. In addition to that, calcium oxalates is reduced by a small, it depends because like 19% it can be reduced, but also up to 87% reduced in leafy greens that have been boiled. So it just depends on the leafy greens, but it can be up to 87%. Steaming and baking are not as effective. So you want to boil them. That's the key here. So phytate is heat resistant though, and not as easily degraded with boiling. So there's a little caveat there. The cooking time required depends, of course, on the type of anti-nutrient, the plant food, and the cooking method. So generally, a longer cooking time results in greater reduction of anti-nutrients. Now, keep in mind that the cooking methods like boiling can also potentially destroy water-soluble vitamins, minerals, and free amino acids in foods. So for green vegetables, steaming retains more nutrients than boiling. So boiling, yes. Steaming, yes, but I wouldn't do it for like baking or like if you were to broil it or like put it in a sheet pan or things like that. So steaming and boiling would be the best option. I'll just say I personally like to steam or just lightly boil so that it's soft. Like for cauliflower, for example, cauliflower is one of my favorite vegetables. I do amazing with it when I steam it. If I eat cauliflower raw, it just disrupts my gut entirely. But if I steam it and then I freeze it, or you could just put it in the fridge. But for smoothies particularly, I steam my cauliflower and then I let it cool down. I pop it in the freezer and then I add it to my smoothies, and it doesn't cause me any gut issues at all. Again, that's just for me, but steaming completely changes the game for me. So I want you guys to take all of these considerations into play when you're preparing your food. And I really want this bite of knowledge to just be more of an encouragement for you if you feel like you're very limited on the foods that you eat and you maybe want to eat more fruits and vegetables and diversify your diet, but you're like, man, every time I try to diversify my diet, I just am balled over in stomach pain. So I would, if you are like in a very dire state, don't go all in. I would always say start with one food, like maybe start with cauliflower or maybe start with broccoli and steam it or puree or something. Don't like do a whole pot of different vegetables, because then you don't know what's going to affect you, and you're just going to be like, oh, it just didn't work for me. Try one vegetable at a time and introduce them to your diet one at a time and go slowly and see how you feel, journal, and then take it from there. If you do well with one vegetable or a bean or legume, then try that for a week and then try another new food and just do it that way. Take it slow, because then you'll know what works for you and what doesn't. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To check out more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com, and to email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.
Are you ready to rock middle age? I'm Dr. Tina Moore, Gen X truth teller and holistic physician. On the Dr. Tina Show, one of Apple Podcast's top alternative health shows, I share what actually works for metabolic health, hormones, and strength, backed by decades of clinical results, not trends. From loving the gym and hitting your protein goals to peptides and microdosing GLP-1s, it's all done the right way, not the hype way. Because menopause doesn't have to suck if you're fit. New episodes every Thursday, produced by Drake Peterson and Wellness Loud.